Hello lab buddies. I've got a microscope to review. This is from Andonstar. They sent it to me at no cost, so we'll check this thing out. I think it's going to be pretty good. Let's get the thing opened up, see what we've got in here. USB power comes in here. That's power goes to the microscope. That goes to the LED lighting. And this is a little controller to turn it all on and off. USB cable as well, straight to it. Have a HDMI cable, HDMI mini to normal HDMI. So let's pull the microscope out. Look at that in a second. Has a remote control, so you can actually control it with the remote control. You can use menu systems as well on the unit. I already have the AD207. The AD207 is basically the same system, but this is bigger. Some mounting hardware stuff for the base if you want to use it to hold down circuit boards. USB power supply, 5 volt 2 amps it's rated at. It's got the correct plug for my country, which is nice. Here we have the arm which holds the microscope up, so you have to attach it to the base. I think it's basically the same as the one that came in my AD207. I think it's the same size even, might be. Let me check. Yep, that's the same size as the one that came in my AD207, which is also a review item which Andonstar sent me last year, I think it was. And here is the base. So this is a much larger base than my other unit. So here's the LED lamps, and on the back here we have the power supply for LEDs, and you've got some mounting holes here, and there's also a couple of holes here. Now these holes here for the little clips which you can use to hold down circuit boards. On my other unit I didn't actually install those, I left them off. I wanted more flexibility about where I could place things on it. Right, so this has to be assembled onto those holes there like that. And you can see it's actually allows you to tip it as well. You can actually loosen this off and adjust it if you need to. Here is the actual microscope, and what makes this one particularly interesting is that it's so big. Now I think my AD207, I think that's a 7-inch screen, whereas this one is a 10-inch screen. Very nice. At the top here we've got, I'm guessing by looking at the things, got USB power there. We've got the HDMI output here, microSD card slot, and there's another port here which looks like maybe it's a microphone input. I don't know what that's for. I'll have to look into that. There's no manual on this. I guess it's on their website. I have to maybe look at that. I'll probably link to the manual. Because this is applied for review, I'm going to be putting links down below for the company that supplied this to me, so you can go and check this thing out, purchase links, that kind of thing. So make sure you go and look at those. This has not been out very long either. It's pretty new. I know when I originally discussed this with Andonstar when they approached me, I asked for this specific unit. I said, oh, can you just wait a little while? We're just doing a firmware update. And so this has got, I believe, the latest firmware on it as well. So yeah. We need to bolt this piece onto the base. These are threaded holes in here. So what we've actually got to do is find the relevant cap screws. There's 2 here. They supply a tool to do it with as well, which is nice. Now I noticed this thing as well when I did my AD207, which I keep on mentioning, is that these holes are recessed and countersunk, and yet the cap screws that go in there are just standard cap screws and not actually countersunk screws, you know. So it's interesting the way they've got countersunk mountings available, but they're not using them. It doesn't seem to matter anyway. I mean, it's not like it rocks around or anything. Just interesting that it's designed for countersunk bolts and it's not what they're actually using. Do you want to see me put it together? I suppose you might do. Okay, there's the base on. I even put it on the right way around. So this does tip. It's all locked in pretty tight. Got these mounts over here. Just drop that through the mounts. A little bit further, there you go. I'll sit in there like this. Now this is a closer range one, right? So my other one could go a little bit further away. This is going to work a bit closer. Right, so we go to the back. Basically, these little screws here, you've got little rubber buffers on the screws, and you just get it where you want it, and then just tighten up a little bit and just box it in place. Alright, so let's get the cables out. I won't do the HDMI just yet. We'll just do it on screen. HDMI does work too. I can probably capture that actually because I use OBS to do video capture sometimes when I'm doing live streams. Rare times I do them. I haven't done them for a while. I did one the other day, but I'll plug that in there. This will plug into here to the USB port on the back. Just up there. So I plugged it in here and on there. So that's the controller plugged in. And then we've got a USB cable which run over here. So I'm going to plug this into my USB bank at the back here. And we'll see how much power it draws because that will tell me. And we'll power it up. Of course the plug's upside down because it's always 3 goes to get it in, isn't it? That's currently drawing 1 amp. Exactly 1 amp. So obviously not focused or anything yet, I haven't adjusted anything. But you can tip the screen as you need to. You can actually do it like that to get further distance. It gives you a angle perspective if you want it. I might just tighten this up a little bit. It's a little bit loose for my liking. I think it needs oiling. That's alright. This will go right down. Let's get these in position so we can actually see what we're doing. And let's get something underneath it. Yeah, let's get one of these boards I made. Let's chuck that under there. And we'll focus it. We'll see what sort of focal ranges we have. See it somewhere. Maybe I was going the wrong way in the first place. It's in there somewhere. It's the middle of the range. Right, up a bit. Too close. Get the right distance. So you've got a lot of control on this for focusing. So you see those pretty well there, can't you? Nice big display, nice and sharp. That looks really good. Now also you can adjust the LED angles to get different lighting, so bring out different profiles and different aspects of the things you're looking at. You know, sometimes you want it more straight down, sometimes you want it more angled so you can get shadows and stuff like that. Just put it sideways, see how it looks. So that looks looking really good. So as far as depth of field goes, well, it's not great. It's quite narrow depth of field. So maybe if I'm a bit further away and then try and focus at a bigger distance, that will help. Usually it being further away and focusing at a bigger distance does improve the depth of field. Also gives you a wider viewing angle as well, obviously. There you can see how many parts on screen. Like that. So that's fully up there, like that. And focus to the board, and we can still see that with sufficient detail to see what it is. That's only, I don't know, 8mm higher, something like 8mm difference, so it's not a great depth of field. So let's have a look at something else here. What was I thinking about? So it's as far away as we can go, see how close we can get and still have a focus. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the limit there. That's as close as I can get to it. And that's one of those parts in shot instead. So this distance here, minimum distance to the board is about 45mm. That's the closest it can be, and so I went all the way to the top of this particular arm here, and that is about 75mm instead. That's about a 30mm range there really. Why do you think you could possibly put a spacer on this arm at the back and actually lift it up a bit higher and get a higher distance? Because it will still focus right at the top. So if I go all the way the other way, that's focused there, right? And I've still got more to go. So I actually think that this could potentially be set up to have a much taller arm on it and stand it off a bit further, which should give you a bigger depth of field as well. This does have things like zoom on it. You can zoom in. So it's doing small steps there. So you don't have to bring it all the way down if you want to look at something closely. That's 3x zoom. And that still looks absolutely fine. It still looks like a really good image. So maybe if I drop this down now and we'll see how close we can actually get with it zoomed in. I need to order this, I think. So that's about there somewhere. So here we go, that's fully in as far as I can go. Let's get some more light on that. It's a little bit grainy because it is digital zoom. But, you know, a part number for a really tiny component, that's alright. Okay, so I'll power up the remote control, put the batteries in it. Takes 2 AAAs. And this has got the menu button and stuff on here. I think you can get to it from these buttons as well, I just don't remember how. So you push the menu button on here. Now when I did the AD207, because of my bright lighting here, I actually had trouble getting the remote to work. But this one seems to be absolutely fine, I don't have any problems with this one. So resolution, go down with the remote. And then we can push the OK button or go right. Do either one. So here's the resolution supports. By default is at FHD 30 frames. I've changed it to 60 frames myself. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if it affects the normal real-time stuff or whether it's only for recording. This is a 1080p display. It probably doesn't affect what you're seeing on screen here, but maybe when it's recording it will change the options there. It may also depend on what your SD card is rated for too, whether it can support these high resolutions. Okay, so I've left that at that one. Exposure levels, I'm going to leave that at default. You can adjust that if you want. Recording audio, I've turned this on. By default it was turned off. I think that's what that socket's for on the top there, for plugging a microphone in. I will have to read the manual, I don't actually know. Day stamp is turned on. Time-lapse recording, so you can do that if you want. I'm not sure why you want to, but I guess some people will use that feature. Sharpness, I think it's fine just there, each to your own. Freeze, on or off, so freeze on. That is now locked on the display. That is a still image now on display if I've moved the board around. So I shall turn that back off again. Now you've got a real image again. So there's also a button on the remote for doing that same feature. There's a freeze button just here. And you've got contrast, low, medium, high. Again, I don't think these update real time, I'm not sure. I can't see anything on the screen changing. Well, you've got default and colour, and you can change these to different ones as well. There you go, there's negative image, which may be quite handy for some things. You're trying to spot detail. Sepia and black and white. I'm going to leave it at normal. Just look at this contrast, shall we? Go high contrast. It does make things stand out quite a lot, doesn't it? Go to low contrast. Really just drop it down quite a bit. I'm going to leave it at medium. I think that was fine. Okay, so that's that menu. Now we have to push the mode button to go to the next menu. And you notice it's got Wi-Fi built in. That's right, it has Wi-Fi. So we're going to turn this on. Now you actually have to connect to this unit's Wi-Fi instead. So you've got an address up here, and it looks like that's the password is 123456778. So I'm going to have to play with this. I'll be right back. So I've connected to Wi-Fi on my phone. Here we go. Right there. Now what do I do with it? I don't know. But it says I've got a connection as well up here, which is quite nice. Well, I'm kind of connected. The phone is saying no. There's an Andonstar app I found for the iOS, and it says please connect camera via Wi-Fi, and I definitely did connection. It's not showing up as a connection on the phone though. Well, not exactly, so maybe there's something going on there. So if I show in here again, it's showing as a connection, but I'm still showing 4G up here. So maybe that's something to do with it. Well, I'm probably doing something completely wrong with this Wi-Fi thing, so I can't get it to actually work, so I think I'm going to just leave that for now. I'll figure that out later on. Maybe it'll work better for the computer, maybe you can use it as a camera source onto the computer through Wi-Fi. Maybe it's possible, I really don't know, but that's what I'm going to play with later on, I think. But for the time being, I want to turn it back off again because I don't need it running. So you have grid line setting. What does that do? Cross line on. Oh, okay. So you can use positioning. Wow, that's lots of lines. I guess that's for doing measurements or something. I really don't know. That's curious. Date time. Let's set this up. This is definitely wrong. It is currently 14th. You probably don't need to see me do this, do you? Almost 12. Almost. Year, month, day, that's fine. Language. So these are the language it supports. Are there more? Yes, there are. Some down there. Frequency. 50 Hz suits my country. Formatting the SD card. Default settings. And version number. So this is the version number of this firmware in this unit. So like I say, you've got this freeze button over here, so if you've got a board, you're trying to look at something on it and you want to inspect it, you could freeze it, push the button properly, and then you could take it off and actually look at it and maybe visualise like that, I suppose, and then you could unfreeze it again and carry on. Got these brightness buttons here as well, which means you can adjust the brightness on display, which is up here. Alright, it shows up there. The freeze doesn't seem to show up though. I didn't see the freeze pop up anywhere on the display. So if I freeze it, there's nothing to say it's frozen. Would be nice if it did that. We've got a plus and minus here. That could be the zoom, is it? Yeah, that's the zoom, which is showing up just here, which we showed you before. Get really close, but then you get digital noise. You just see a bit of digital noise in here. Maybe you can see it on camera. But if you're just trying to see something really close, it doesn't really matter that much usually. Now on the AD207, it had very cool steps in the zooming. I think it was like 1, 2, was it 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3 or something like that in the zoom levels. I think it's something like that. So this is a bit different. It's got really small steps, so get just the right zoom level to see as much as you can. It might be better for that. What these two buttons do, triangular buttons. So look. Oh, it says course settings over here. It's like it's a resolution setting. It's showing up just over here. But I think that's for doing the SD card stuff. What's that one do? Oh, colours. Okay, it's going between black and white and colour. What's that one do? Oh, it's the other two. So that's doing the inverted colours. as well. It could be really good for getting out detail which you probably couldn't otherwise see. You know, or wouldn't be very easy to see. Default setups, I guess that returns it normal. Locking, don't know. Is that setting lock? Doesn't seem to do anything on display, got no idea. NTL and PAL. NTL? I don't know. Nothing on display. A lot of these buttons I don't know what they do. Also got a plus over here. What does that do? Well, that brings the lines up. So it's actually not a plus, it's crosshairs. Okay. And you've got 50 Hz, 60 Hz on here, which is bringing up this menu thing here. Oh, look, that's interesting. What is that one doing? Well, that's curious. That's just gone. What happened there? Well, that's gone very slow and laggy, and the resolution's dropped right down. Did I do something silly here? Back to default buttons. Yeah. Okay, I must have done something weird on here, which it didn't like. What did I do? Try to understand what I did there to see if I can repeat it. Weird, it's almost like it crashed. That was strange. It's working again now. Weird. Anyway, got a black button down here which is marked. What does that do? No idea. Wi-Fi's on. So does that turn the Wi-Fi on off or something? Wi-Fi is now off. So that seems to be turning the Wi-Fi on off. You know, it says 50 Hz, 60 Hz. It's not actually doing that. So Wi-Fi is off. I push that. It's showing up. Wi-Fi is now on. Maybe I just happened to be doing too many things at once and he glitched it, because it would have been turned the Wi-Fi on as I was pushing other buttons. Maybe I did something there which made it crash. Curious. Anyway, it came back again. So there's got a bit of a delay after that button push. But yeah, what do you want from a microscope? It's it makes things bigger. So this one's got higher magnification than my AD207. It's got much longer optics, I suppose. So I think that's a thing you have to consider as well, about how close you want to get to the object you want to look at. Now this is great for looking really close, and like the AD207 was more suited to being slightly further away. So you have to kind of think about what you're actually going to be using it for. So you can see the wires there, and maybe change the lighting. Let's get this there and mess with the lighting a little bit. I thought I'd show you this too. So this is a bit turned all the way up, maximum height. So this is a centimetre ruler, so I'll stick that one in there. So we have about, if you say middle to middle, right, that's about 12.5 millimetres across the range here. So it's about 12.5 millimetres range, you can see there, with it all the way up. So let's bring it all the way down. That is now basically 5 millimetres across the entire screen. That means you get pretty damn close to stuff. So if I get my tweezers in here, these are really fine point tweezers. Use this for doing S&D stuff. You can see they actually don't look that sharp in here, but they are. So here's my AD207 instead. Right, this is the one I reviewed previously. You can see the screen size is significantly smaller, but this has got a much bigger working distance and it's got a wider field of view. I think it's got a slightly wider depth of field as well. I'm not sure. It's a bit hard to say, but that's what I can see all the way up. Let's get the ruler back in. Left to right, seeing about 21 millimeters basically. That's fully up. So I bring it all the way down as far as it can go with focusing as well. So there, that's focused. And that is, what's that, about 9 millimeters wide. So it's basically twice the viewing angle of that one. And look at some parts on here, same kind of deal. Let's focus that a bit better. That gives you an idea of what that can do. Now this has got the same buttons on it, but as saying with the magnification, there you go, it goes straight to 2 times magnification, straight to 4 times magnification. Obviously it's digital zoom, 4 times. This has got bigger zoom on it, and these really cool steps. And I actually think I prefer having cool steps rather than that fine 0.1 resolution steps on that one, because I think it's a bit slow to go through. If it stepped in 0.5 it'd be right. This steps in, well, doubles it each time. So fully out is obviously 1, then it goes to 2 which doubles it, and then it doubles it again to 4. So maybe this should do the same sort of thing. It's probably a firmware thing they could do. I just quite like those steps. Yeah, so that gives you an idea of how these compare in that way. Quite a big difference between them. So it depends on what your use case is. If you want to do a wider view of what you're working on, or you're working on larger stuff, which means you can't get the field of view you need on this one, then maybe the AD207 is what you want. Different use cases. So if you need to get a really close view of what you're working on, you know, you need to inspect the joints. For example, we know these, make sure they're soldered properly. Maybe you know, you want to look for tiny little cracks and stuff like that. This might suit you better. So I decided to try something with this microscope. Right on the end of the optics here, there's another ring which doesn't turn. So at the back of the optics there's a ring which doesn't turn. Then you got the bit which you used to do the focusing, and then there's another ring here. So I thought, instead of mounting it at the very top where it's supposed to sit, as I mounted it on the bottom here, it's actually given me a much greater field of view, because it means I can get it that much higher, like basically double the height, effectively. So now if I zoom all the way out, as far as I can go with this, we get a basically 26mm width on there, instead of what I was getting before. And if I go all the way down, I've oiled this thing as well, to try and help smooth it out. It'll probably get better as it gets used, anyway, it takes the rough spots off. That's right down the bottom of that, can't go any closer. And that's right down, so that's physically as large as it will go on that arm, so I can use the whole length of that arm in and out. That now gives us basically 8mm, so it's a bit of an improvement there, and that's quite good. It means if you want a broader field of view, then you can change it to this position here instead. If I bring the parts back in again, off here, there we go, there's that. So that's fully in, and I can just focus, get that just right. I'll put it all the way out and give you a broader view as well. So this is actually now, if I had positioned it here, it's giving me a broader view than this one's giving me. But I could probably do the same thing on this one as well, use that ring there. But I haven't bothered with that, obviously. I've been happy with that when it once worked. So it gives you some options whether you want to have it really close or further away. This focus ring goes the opposite direction to this one. It's a bit confusing. Okay, I go right to the top and I'll focus it up there. That gives a much broader view. I can see all those parts here instead of only seeing a couple of them. So that's pretty good. And I'll bring the ruler in, basically 26. So that's much better. I think I'll leave it up here. That works out a bit better. I think I have to tighten this up a little bit so it doesn't drift a little bit. It's a little bit soft, but not a big deal. So I'm going to show you this controller. So this one here will turn it on off. A button does the whole lot. Okay. Does the microscope as well, which you can't see because it's currently out of shot. These other two buttons are brightness. So this adjusts the brightness of the LEDs. So you can turn the LED lighting right down. That's all the way off. And bring your more up again in steps. Like here you can actually set a solder mask, the gap around the solder mask on the pads. I thought I'd show you that too. Just the brightness controller thing, power control. There you go, off. So you can leave it plugged in your desk if you've got a USB power bank like the one I supplied, which is this one here. I mean, I've got a USB outlet on the desk here for everything. You could use one of these, leave it plugged in at a time and turn it on off with this as you need to. There you go. So thanks a lot Andonstar for sending those to me. Make sure you check out the links down below. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe if you want to subscribe, if you like review videos or electronics in general. And I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to share a video if you think people might want it. Catch you later. Check the links out. I'll buy one. Maybe. Or this one. Either one. Buy one. Catch you later.